So in this video, I want to try this Apple website's this feature, which is when I click on it, you could see this gets revealed. So text gets revealed or any other elements get revealed. And the best part is if I click on here, it automatically removes the click from here. So you could see that if I click anywhere else, the other gets inactive. And it is actually for the whole page that they have done it. And usually when I create a tutorial, what I do is I actually practice it first, so to see like how it works and all the code. But for this one, I haven't really done that because it feels a bit easy, and I think it would be good to see the approach and how I make all this stuff. So I've got a page ready in here, and let's see how this is going to go. So first of all, we have this bento grid option. So I've already created videos on it in multiple ways how to create bento grids. So I'm just going to use the new grid feature for this one. But again, if you want to do with Flexbox, you can 100% do this. And I've already created a video on how to create like a bento grid with Flexbox and also with grid. Just search bento in my YouTube channel. Now I've selected grid in here, and probably let's see how they have done. So they have used boxed. I'm going to make it, I guess, 1500 pixels. Why not? Let's do, I guess, that all does not matter. Let's do 2 again because they have also done 2. We can choose whatever you want. It's your choice. I'm going to do is in each of them, right? So for example, I need to have one container in here, and every time I add a container or any element, so if I let's say add any element inside this grid one, it will get added to like different grid containers like this. So if I do image, you could see it automatically sent to the next grid container like this. So each element inside of this gets assigned a column, or not a column but basically a section. I'll just give it, I guess, 500 pixels of size, and just when I'm doing some stuff, I like to add some colors just to see what I'm doing, just to make sure that I'm not messing a random stuff. And this container, I'll give it as a dark gray for time being. Okay, there we go. So now I know that I'm working in this one and it is not getting confusing. So I know that inside of this I'm going to need 2 containers. So one for the front image and the one for the background image, or not image, just content basically. So on each containers I'll need to add 2 more containers, one for the front. So let me call this as front, and I can make this grow, and when you do grow, it will automatically stretch to the size. Let's duplicate this one. I'll call this back like this. Now, obviously, we don't want it to be like half and half size. So maybe, I mean, this is not going to help. We might need to use absolute, or not might, like 100%. So one of it should be given position absolute, I think. Another way would be to like completely hide this and make this one hidden. So it's up to our choice how we want to proceed. I think position absolute is like the best way to do it, so that we can actually see how it's happening. But we can also make it that only this one is visible by giving this one display none, and then making this one visible by giving this one, the front one display none. But I think I'll do position absolute. So in the front one, let's give it a color for timing so that we can actually play around with. And then the back one, let's give it, I guess, a blue color. Okay, there we go. Now in the front one, I'm just going to add a content called, I don't know, DMmotionarts like this. Let's make it everything in center. Let's copy this and let's call it as, let's make this also center and probably call it as, I don't know. You can type it anything, any content, but for now I'm just testing it. This like and subscribe one, I'm going to go into position absolute, and you could see the grow does not work when we give position absolute. For that, I can simply go in here, and we can only do this if we have position absolute, I think so. And I've given it 100 height, and the width is already 100. So that way it just covers everything like this. We can remove the padding from this one so that it is like same, but again, it's your choice. This is a grid container, right? So I'm going to create another container below this one so that we can add our HTML widget. We cannot add it in a grid container because it kinda will not work perfectly, because it uses like one section, right? Let's make this 0, let's make this container 0, and let's do this 0 so that it does not take any space. So if I close this, it's not going to take any space. And even for safety, we can hide this one so that it does not take any space, but the code would still run. Now this container, so let's call it as click container, like this. If you want to get this code, I would probably have it in my blog page, which I'll link in the description. So you don't have to do it, but you will still understand how I proceed or how I make this. Basically, I'll call this as DM click container, like this. Let's call this as DM click front. Okay, so I just made my mouse and this magnifier enable so that we can actually see how this looks. So we got DM click front for the front one, DM click container for the container, and then this one would be, let's move down, DM click back, something like this. You can name it anything, it's your choice. I'm going to do this, I'm going to duplicate it few more times so that we see like this, multiple of them. So let's do some styling first. So we can do custom CSS by typing style like this. Even if you don't have Pro, you could use like HTML widget and then use this stuff to add custom CSS. Let's do .dm click container, right? Because that's what we have used. Let's type DM front container. Oh, sorry, click front. Wait, what did I name it? So I'm going to copy this DM click front and then just add it in here. Make sure to add dot. To be honest, I don't know why we need all this stuff, so let's just, still I'm just typing it in case we might need. So the back one, I can do display none so that it gets hidden, you could see, but I don't think I should do it this way. Should I do it this way? I'm still confused. Obviously, one more thing, another thing is like if I just do, let's say, opacity 0, that way the opacity is 0. So if I give this opacity 0, you could see it is now hidden, but I actually cannot like click on the text, I think. Never mind, I can click. I could even do like if I do on hover, I want my DM click back to have opacity 1. And that way if I hover on it, it will basically just show. And obviously we could add some transition to our DM click back like this, transition 0.3 seconds like this, and you could see we can do it based on hover pretty easily, but I don't want to do it based on hover. I want to do it based on click. For that we will need to use JavaScript because that's the only way to do it based on click. Let's type script. Now we need to actually get all the elements which have DM click back and click front, right? So let's do constant DM. Let's get the click front, or actually we can get click container. If we get the click container, I can just add the click on that one based on that. Yeah, so let's do click container equal to document. So basically we are saying in our document selector get all which has the CSS class DM click container. I don't know if it's easy to see like this. So in our document get all the elements which have the CSS class DM click container like this. Then we need to also get our DM click back. So let's do DM click back. Front does not matter, I think. Let's do document query selector all, and let's get all our DM click back like this. So we need to actually loop through all our containers. So I'll do DM containers for each, open bracket again, and I'll just call it as DM click element like this, do space arrow function, and let's do this. So for each of them we need to add an event listener to each one of them. So right now we will actually use this one instead of this one. So we now need to use like this temporary variable to add our event listener, because that way it loops through each element. So basically for each one of them it will take the first element and then add it in this temporary variable and all this function. Then the second time it will take the second one, add it in this temporary variable and do all this code again. So it does like all this code once here, and basically uses this temporary variable. Let's do add event listener. Make sure to write everything correct, E capital, L capital. I want to do it based on click, and basically if you want you can even do it like mouse over and stuff, and then do comma, open function, like this. So let's see. I hope I typed this correctly. We will see if we check the errors. So no issues. So what I could do is I could use like different method, because that would make it like much more easier, and I'll call it as DM. Let's do click back active like this. So I just created like a different CSS class, and whenever this CSS class is added, so let's say DM click back active. Let me go into my one of the back containers. If I go into here and do space and add this, you could see now it is like visible. You could see every time this CSS class is added. So I can simply just make this CSS class added every time we click on it. So every time I click, I first need to remove this CSS class from every one of them. So what that basically would do is, let's say I've added this CSS class, which is DM click back active, to this one. When I click here, it will first remove the CSS class, which is DM class active, from every one of them, and then add it to the one that we have clicked. So basically every time we will do a click, it will remove it from each one of them and then add it only to the one that we have clicked. So let's do is, let's get our DM click element like this, because every time we do it, we want to loop through each one of them and do class list dot remove. And here I will remove this one. Do not type dot, okay, when we using this one. I don't know why the code has we do not type dot in here. We basically do like this because it has already set to remove class list. So when we click on it, it basically would remove this CSS class from every one of them, but now we want to add it only to the one that has been clicked. So let's try this. So we do DM click element class list add. Let's do quotation mark and then let's paste this. Will that work? Is that enough? Let me see. So first we'll loop through each element. In this temporary variable, we add an event listener click, and that event listener, whenever it is clicked, it will remove from every single one of them and add it only to the one that has been clicked. Let's do preview and see if that works. Nope, it isn't working. Let's go into our inspect. Let's see our console. Console is where we get all our JavaScript errors. Okay, so I have added like space in here, which is why it kind of messed it up. I think so. That's all the error. Let's see if we get any errors. There's no error. If I click on it, nothing's happening. Okay, I am seeing it getting added, but it is adding to the, okay, I've done a stupid thing. The problem is we are adding this CSS class, which is DM clickback active, to our container instead of adding it to our back container. So we want to add it to our back container and not to our to our click container. And you can see when I click in here, it basically added around here clickback active like this. Another thing is it's not even removing it for some reason. So let's see, we might need to debug it few more times. So every time we click on it, we actually want to, I'm going to add like one more thing called index, and basically each one would be given an index. So this one would be 0, 1, 2, 3 like this if we do it that way. Then when we add an event listener, we want to actually loop through this click back. Okay, so we want to actually loop through each of them again. So let's create another loop around here, which would be for each DM, let's call it like DM back element like this. Let's do arrow function. Let's open this and let's do DM back. Let's do this one. Okay, so class list remove. Okay, so we want to actually remove it from our back container like this, and not from not from our main container, only from the back container. So we are looping through all our elements to add add this event listener, which would listen to click elements. So every time we click, it will loop through all the back elements around here and then remove it. And then we actually need to add only to the one that has been clicked, right? So what we can do is, we can actually select this click back like this to open this will open this bracket which has the array. Basically, if I type 0 in here, it would be the first container. If I type 1 in here, it would be second container. If I type 2 in here, it would be the third container. What I could do is I could just use this index around here and then do dot class list dot add and then do dm click back active. Dm click, oops, why is it not adding? Okay, there we go. So it will only add the active one. After it, first it will loop through all of them and then remove it. But here I will only add it to this one, which is this stuff. Let's see if that works. Please work, please work. And you could see it has started to work based on a click. Perfect. Now we just need to add some transition in here. So let's do transition 0.3 seconds. Let's copy this and also add it around here. So whenever we click, this transition is used. When we click again, this transition is used. Let's try this. This code is in description if you want to get it, so feel free to get that. And if I click on it, we are basically changing similar to what we are doing, but in this one it is also scaling it down, right? How about we also add the scaling effect? So this whole container, we can scale it down by a little bit every time we click. And we are already looping through all our elements, right? So if I'm looping through all our like DM click container, I could just do is first we need to remove all that stuff, right? So let's use this CSS class method because it basically allows to like just add the code in here whenever we want to do like different effects. You could even add like different colors in here or stuff like that, and it would basically work, which is why I like to use the CSS class method instead of adding the code in here. So let's go in here and then type, let's do DM click container active, something like this. And when it is active, we'll do 0.99 or 0.9 scale, and then when it is by default state, okay, 0.9 is too like small, you could see. Let's do like 0.95. Actually no, it is actually doing for every single one of it, right? So we need to just do 1 in here because that's the default one. I'll also add the transitions in here. If you guys know that if you just type scale in here, then it will only affect the scale effect, and if you had like multiple effect, you could do comma and then do opacity, and then the opacity would be like, opacity would take like 1 second. So you could have like different options. For time being, I'm just using 0.3 seconds, so it would apply to all effects. Now when we loop through each of them, we have already created this stuff, right? So every time we click the DM click element, which is the clicked one, we can do class list add, which is just DM click container active, like this one. DM click container active only to the one that has been clicked. But before that, we actually need to remove, because if we don't remove this is what would happen. Okay, so right now we are just adding it. Let's see. So if I click on it, it did scale down. It's a lot smaller, but you could see it is not scaling up, because every time I click somewhere, it needs to remove from each one of them. What would happen if I just did this one? It would not work, right? If I just do remove at first and then, because it will only do it for the one of it. So we might need to loop through it again. So there's so many looping that we are doing, and it is very common to loop through elements again and again if you are trying to work with multiple stuff. This one is basically not going to do anything, I think, because it is removing and then adding it instantly. So right now this is only affecting the one that has been clicked. So every time we click, I need to do another loop. So I'm going to remove this stuff. We need to loop through this again. and this time we will use like different temporary variable like this. So I'll call it like dm click element 2. Why not? That's like the easiest way to remember. And then close this, and inside of this one we'll basically remove stuff. Let's do remove. You could see the code is like very small, and we are doing the same stuff again and again, but we are just looping through. Wait, it's not removing it. Why is it not removing it? Well, because we have to do click element 2, because we created click element 2 around here. Let's do preview. It is actually getting bigger, but it is getting wait, it's taking too much time. Why is it taking so much time? I accidentally typed 9.3 in here. Wow, what a rookie mistake. So it was taking 10 seconds to get like bigger to the default size. And you could see we got the same effect, which is around here, which is pretty cool. Everything else is just styling. Okay, so you might think that, oh, why is it not looking so pretty? It's because we have to style it and make it look the same. One more thing is, okay, I'm not able to, you could see, select this text around here, because it is, even though this like and subscribe, this text is around here, it is actually just hidden. So even though if I'm not clicking in here, you could see if I like select this one, it is actually selecting this one. So what I could do is I can make the z index when it is like so for the front one I can give this one like z index. Let's do it in the code so that it's faster. For the first one I'll give like z index to be 2, so that it is now on top, and then this one would be at the back like this. Z index would be 1, so that one. But when it is active, I can make the z index to be 3, so that it is higher than this one. And now you could see what would happen. You could see that I can actually now select this text, and now I can also select this one only when this is active. Okay, and obviously if you do like this changes to 0.95 or something, so it looks better, like 0.95 or 99, something like this, and that might just work. And you could see 95 looks better like this. Now one more thing, let me just give like one brief overview of what we did in this code. So first of all, we created a CSS class for our container, and then we created another one which would be our active state. Then for the front one, we have given z index like this, the back one, and then active for the back one. Okay, and these two CSS class are added via our JavaScript whenever we click. Then we created an array. Array is basically adding like lots of different stuff in one single variable, which is this one, constant variable. When we type all, it basically adds like multiple of it in an array. If you don't type all, it will only do it for the first element. And usually when you have only one element, we do not type all. But when we want to do multiple stuff, we do all, and we have to loop through each element. Similarly, because we have clicked back multiple times, I also did loop and used all. So for this array, we are doing a loop. So for each one of them, we are creating a temporary variable, and we are also giving it an index. So the first one is 0, 1, 2, like this. And then we are adding an event listener called click to our DM click element. So each one of them, every time so when it loops for first time, this one is added to our DM click element. So next time it loops again, the second one, it loops and does all this code again for the second one, then loops for the third one, and every time the loop is happening, it is stored in this temporary variable. So we add DM click element, add event listener click like this. So the event listener is called click for us because we are looking for click, right? Then when we click on it, we are actually looping through all our containers again and removing this CSS class, which is our active one. So that every time we click, it first removes our this active class from every one of them. And obviously if you add this code above this one, it would not work because the code works from top to bottom. Okay, so it needs to be in top to bottom order, unless you are using like functions and all, which basically allows you to place it anywhere. So once we have looped through it again and removed the CSS class, we are adding it only to the one that we have clicked, which is this element. You could say DM click element. We are adding it only to that one, and whatever styling is added around here would be added to that one. After doing all this stuff, which is making the container smaller wherever we have clicked, We now loop through all our back containers, and in that one we remove the CSS class back active from every one of them. So what we did around here, we are doing it again with the back containers, and this time we use a different method, which is to add this index around here. So this index works to index basically make sure that the first element and this element are the same. So like this.